Okay, here we go. Yeah, you should be able to record.
No, it says please request permission from the meeting host.
Okay.
Ah, it says it's recording. What?
There we are.
Okay.
The technicalities of things. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
Oh gosh, I'm really well. I'm feeling really positive and excited. I'm having some funny palpitations though in my heart. Like they've been happening for the last I'd say 36 hours. It's just been like really like shudders of. I mean, it doesn't hurt or anything, but they've just been like that. Really good.
Have you seen the Schumann resonance the last couple of days?
Yeah, I saw that. I actually saw that on your post.
Just really bright white light, and I've been heart palpitations, headaches, all sorts of stuff. Like
headaches are crazy. I don't get headaches, but this last 3 months, they've just decided to say, "Oh, hello, Alpa."
So, for anybody watching this who doesn't know who we are, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Me, gosh, Mark, I've been on this journey for quite some time, and I sort of decided the awakening journey, and I decided to pack the courage and speak about it, because I realized that there was just so much suppression, cognitive dissonance, and when I was speaking about it with people, I just couldn't understand how they reacted. So it propelled me to speak to Charlie Ward. He was the first person that I sort of thought, I need to speak about this with no agenda. I didn't realize where this would go, but I had this compelling need inside of me that I must speak about it, almost like a calling. Yeah,
I know that feeling.
Yeah, like this, I couldn't just sit and shut up about it. And members of my family would be like, can you just stop this nonsense, Alpa? This is just all conspiracy theories. And, people have watched me in all the other shows, they know this story anyway. But for people who are watching for the first time, there was just this moment where I thought, no, I have to say something. Anyway, one thing led to the other, and here I am speaking to you. And, we're all in this truth movement. And what is truth? What is truth, right? We keep saying the awakening journey, all these labels that are sort of banded around at the moment. There are varying degrees of people who are at different stages of this alternative rhetoric now that people like yourself, myself, are sharing. Yeah, we're not saying that we're the messiahs or that we're right or anything, but we're sharing information and actually going inside, to be able to discern, decipher that, hang on a minute, everything that I know has not been true. And I have had this feeling for 10 years. So I felt very isolated in my kind of friendship circles. I would talk about all this spiritual stuff and be kind of like pushed aside, thinking that here she goes again with her numbers and sacred geometry, etc. But it was pushing me to go inside, to deal with so many variants of who I am as a person. All this questioning was just going on. And you and I both know where we are right now in this cycle of this movement. We've evolved so much. We've learned so much about ourselves. We've made some great connections along the way. And yeah, like I said, I feel incredibly excited, Mark.
Have you noticed time speeding up? I feel like everything's going unbelievably fast at the moment.
It was March yesterday.
Huh?
It was March yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking to my son earlier, and I was like, he was like, it's 6 months since this thing started. I spent 6 months at home. And I was like, I know, it's nearly November. It's the election in 2 weeks.
I know. But these last 2 months are so important, Mark, for sure. We've got a lot of planetary energies that are happening, and I'm no expert, I'm not an astrologer, I'm just a normal person trying to navigate myself and my way around this spiritual journey and all these kind of inner intuitive downloads that I call them, that I'm getting. So I'm running with it. I actually love the chat you and JCK had. She's phenomenal. She's really, really good. And I think, a lot of people will really gravitate towards her because she's talking about stuff that is so that's from other realms, and people don't actually acknowledge that. It's kind of considered a bit woohoo, and I have been in this journey for quite some time, so I'm familiar with everything that she talks about.
Same here. I mean, that's when I first saw her video. I was like, oh, I know all of this stuff. Well, I didn't know all of it, but I resonated with it completely, which is why we ended up chatting so quickly. What I find really interesting is that I've spent years and years and years reading as many books as I can get hold of, looking at videos, finding people, and there was everything's kind of what's really interesting about people like you and JC and me and other people is that we're not saying we know everything. We're not saying this conspiracy, that conspiracy. It has evolved very much into like a sharing of personal experiences, and it's very much become a spiritual adventure. And it's quite extraordinary to think of the number of people that are online now, like we are now, talking about this stuff openly. And that's compared to even a year ago. And you and I have something in common, like we've been in the business world for quite a long time. And I just had a flashback when you said the woo-woo thing, because I remember doing a conference in London about 5 or 6 years ago, and it was run by somebody who's very, very much in the business mindset. And she kept saying to me, can you stop being woo-woo? Can you just stop it? I don't want to hear any of that woo-woo shit.
That's like my business partner. He's lovely though. I speak to him about this all the time, and it was so ironic that before all of this kicked off, I'd speak to him and say, look, I'm seeing a 22 here, number 1111, 777, all these numbers, 144. 144 is crazy for me at the moment. 144 is crazy, but we'll talk about that a bit later.
Oh, me, it's 17 and 45.
Yeah, so
all day long.
Really, really, really interesting numbers those are. But yes, I was speaking to him about this, and he'd be just like, he's such a encourager and a positive person, but still very when it comes to all of this stuff, it kind of just goes over his head. And it doesn't mean that he doesn't want to know or doesn't want to learn. It just is something that he doesn't resonate with, which is where a lot of people are at. And we can't also brush people who don't understand that they're not awake. And I find this is happening a lot in the communities. The sleepers or the sheep and the this and the that. It's not really kind of we all
and I've been guilty of that as well, and at the beginning of starting this YouTube channel, I was I'm quite an aggressive Aries, right? So I attack everything at full pelt.
I understand that.
Sorry?
I understand that.
But yeah, my instinct is to go, right, what are we up against? I want to go to war. I want to go and fight. And one of the first interviews I did on the channel was with a lovely woman called Deborah Sutton, who'd done a heart healing on me like 2 days before. And she kept saying, Mark, just relax. Don't engage with the matrix. And I was like, but. And then I was like, oh, yeah, she's right. I don't need to do that. So I'm trying to focus on where we're going. And it's not like a competition, like who's the most spiritually aware and who's, and all of that kind of has just fallen away in a very short period of time. But I think there's a few things that I find really interesting. Like friends, lots of people are saying similar things, like friends have fallen away, family have fallen away, fallen out with people. That's like a common theme. A lot of my friends have just disappeared. And one of the reasons for that is, I don't know if you've had this, but I've had friends say, oh, you sound like you joined a cult. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, I just can't get my head around Donald Trump because he doesn't like people of a certain skin color. That's a direct quote from a friend of mine who lives near you, actually. You must have had a lot of that as well.
I mean, people who've watched me in this journey as I'm evolving, like yourself, we're all evolving. This is, like you very correctly said, this isn't any kind of competition. We're not people that have all the answers. We've just spent a lot of time researching and have managed to kind of wake up and understand it very quickly. So we have been up against this type of energy against us, where people are like, what are you talking about? And Donald Trump. I'll come on to Donald Trump in a second, but one thing that and I'd like to say to everyone listening to this, is that we are going towards some really amazing energies. Yeah, this unity consciousness. I myself, like yourself, was very frustrated with people around me, and I was getting angry inside, but that's nothing to do with the people outside. It's to do with what's going on within me. And this is why I say go within, go within. If you can't go outside, go inside. Yeah. When we had this lockdown, there's a reason why everything is happening. Whether we have the most correct spiritual explanation for it, because we're a healer, we're a psychic, we're a medium, we're whatever, or if we're on the other side of academia, but yet we're connected to a higher dimension, we all are in this together, and we're evolving. And wherever everyone is, like, let's take the pressures off ourselves, and I found myself getting angry and, like yourself, feeling a bit disappointed. So I was checking within myself to see where in my life I need to do more healing, where you can be totally balanced, where people like this come against you. So just about 2 weeks ago, I started getting into this momentum of, like, everyone is where they're meant to be. Yes, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
It is frustrating. And, I was like to Charlie in my first, I just want to plant the seeds, because within the Asian community, this has been incredibly tough for me, because suddenly I have people around the whole world be messaging me saying, thank you for, just share. And what are we doing? We're just sharing information. I'm not going in the tunnels and taking the children out, I'm not doing any of the physical stuff. I have plans for stuff outside all of this, but we are, we are just sharing this information, Mark, and actually having the guts to do it. Why are people thanking us? Because of this situation you're speaking about, where people are getting shunned, looked at like they're some freaks because of one person and because they're supporting Donald Trump. So let's look at what's happened and why this has happened, right? Mm-hmm. We have been having this conditioning, this programming by who? The mainstream media. I know everybody knows it. We keep saying the mainstream media, but it's been an actual program. It's actually been strategically designed to program you. That's why it's called a TV program, right? Mm-hmm. We've been subliminally programmed for years and years and years and years. So here we go. The arsenal of the media, completely painted and portrayed him to be an absolute oaf, talking about his tan and his hairstyle and all of this nonsense. And you have little children straight away saying, oh my God, Donald Trump, he's a moron, he's a this, he's a that. And why has that happened? Because we have been subliminally programmed over a long period of time. So I understand where and why people are just defensive about him, just from an energetic plane. And that's this programming that's happened. Let's be honest, in the beginning, when I saw him on TV, I thought, oh, he's not politically correct. But I like that. I like people who are not politically correct and just say things as they are. I used to be like that. I learned to kind of like add my P's and Q's before I say something.
It's been going on a long time. I mean, I was in America in '87, and that's when PC I was first aware of it. So it's been going on a very long time, but it's a prison for your mind. And it's incredibly powerful how people are like getting narrower and narrower and narrower in what they think they can say and do. And they're trapped, and that allows the controllers to just get away with more stuff, doesn't it? Yeah.
You've got that. So you have the media fraternities and entertainment fraternities that are continually bombarding you through songs, through the narratives and the scripts of the news, and through programs, and through the series, and it's like Netflix. It's just all very lot of violence and horrible things that, I haven't watched Netflix for ages. I can't even remember the last show that I haven't watched TV properly for 10 years.
I can't watch it.
No.
I try. I go, tonight I'm going to sit down and watch something. I sit there for 10 minutes and I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do it.
And that's a really interesting thing that you say that, because that happens to me all the time. I think, you know what, Alpa, now I just want to switch off and I want to watch something. Actually, do you know what I watched recently? The Octopus Man with my little, brilliant. It's just all about nature, and it's just this connection. The man who has a connection with an octopus. He studies and follows this particular octopus for 365 days for 1 year and forms a relationship with him. That's a really good watch. But anyway, so going back to what we were saying, why are people so defensive when you mention Trump, just look at the academic institutions, for example, right? We are hit from birth. Yeah, you have these establishments that subliminally program the way students come out, and they have this, I say this a lot, the pseudo intellectual, almost arrogant sense of entitlement to the establishments that they are aligned with. And I'm not saying that in a disrespectful way, so please don't take me wrong, people, but it's almost like, well, I've come out of Cambridge and I'm Oxford, and we obviously know better, because the system has programmed us all almost for two things: extreme like success and this placement of superiority in society, and how people will be then treated as a result from, you know, being churned out of these institutions and establishments. And then it sort of demises people that didn't quite get there, and then having these whole host of sort of like not good enough and mental issues that come out of not like being a school dropout or an academic reject or whatever it is. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Well, I'm going to interject because I'm father to 5 children, so this is very close to my heart. I also started a couple of schools in Marrakesh, and I've employed teachers and know all about syllabuses and all that kind of stuff. And I'm very, like the other day, one of my sons, he's a daydreamer, right? And I encourage daydreaming. I think it's a very important thing. And he because he was daydreaming and because he didn't do exactly what he was told in class, they have this thing called golden time, which is like something they get at the end of term when they have some, and he got it reduced. So he was being punished for daydreaming, and he came home and he was upset and he was crying. And I said, listen, you can daydream all you like, right? That's just a teacher. It's not real. You don't have to, you know, and that's just something this week. My eldest son, I'm very proud to say, when he went to the American school in Marrakesh, and when you talk about subliminal stuff, I totally agree with that, but it's not just subliminal. It's right above the parapet. Yeah. And he had a class, I think he had a social studies class, where they were being taught the official narrative of 9/11 in school by a teacher when he was like 11 years old. And I'm very proud of the fact that he put his hand up in the class and said, at the end of what he was being told, what about Building 7? Sir, you never mentioned Building 7. The teacher was flummoxed. And I was always being called in to see the headmaster for him. That's and even the other day at school, he was, the teacher was, in the politics class, the teacher was basically slagging off Donald Trump. She wasn't teaching politics, she was teaching her politics. Yeah. And again, he put his hand up and said, well, what about all the good things he's done? And but she'd never heard of them. Yeah. So the teachers themselves are the most brainwashed, the same as the doctor. As you say, the higher up in academia, this arrogant kind of, I have the privilege at the moment to be working with a guy who calls himself Dr. Q in the States. He's a doctor that says that 30 years at being a doctor, he'd never read the ingredients to a vaccine. And when he did, it opened him up. And now he's written a book about it.
What does that tell you? So within the academic establishments and then, the pharmaceutical industries and the medical fraternities, you have these people that we are taught to believe in, because they hold those titles, those labels, right? Yeah. Yeah. So the doctor said, in the Asian families, every parent wants their children to become a doctor, dentist, accountant, or something with the title. Okay? As we say, my son is a doctor, my daughter's an accountant, and I followed the academic path, Mark, but I didn't enjoy it. I felt like I didn't study, I didn't pay attention. I was a daydreamer too. I had similar run-ins with teachers, and my mum was in there. So she can't focus, she can't concentrate. So instead of actually helping the student, they will actually vilify you inadvertently and make you feel like you're not good enough. Yeah. So this whole thing has been going on for years and years and years. Our parents had to go through it, and it just gets passed down the line. So it's no surprise now we are where we are at the moment with Donald Trump. Children are being taught to hate him. What does that say? What's happened to freedom of thought, encouragement of questioning? Yeah. I mean, even bless my beautiful mother, I used to irritate her because I was a big question mark, right? But I'm glad that you find your own way, and the sort of person that, you know, will ask questions, you'll question everything, even if you don't understand, if it seems like a bit of a blur, you have this intuitive radar within yourself. Yeah, this guiding light, your intuition, which we're not taught about at school, which is the
Not at all. Not
yeah?
at all. No.
And, you know, and I come from the Sanatha Dharma, known as the Hindu background, and, you know, where meditation and yoga, going inwards, is so a part of, or should be a part of our daily lives. But even within our own Asian communities, we're so far removed from the gift of spirituality that we're born into within the Vedas and the teachings of the spiritual practices. And I'm finding my own way. I don't know anything. I say to everyone, I know nothing, but everything that I have learned has been from this inner compass. Yeah, that's guiding me, directing me. I get it wrong, I get it right. Sometimes, you know, I'm just finding my way. And with the children, if we're teaching them just contempt and one left brain way of thinking, this person is good, this person is bad, what are we going to be churning out? We want children to be vibrant individuals that have so much to offer us as humans, right? As adults.
Yeah.
And we just start suppressing them and making them smaller and smaller and smaller. And it's the system that does it. So then you've got I had a bit of a run-in with my health a few years ago. And I was going to the doctors all the time, just trying to figure out, getting a lot of brain fog, fatigue, tiredness. You know, I couldn't string sentences together. And it was 5-year running with the doctors, and they just kept wanting to, for every ill, give me a pill. So you say that the doctors, that your friend or whoever you were speaking to, didn't even know the ingredients of what was in a vaccine. What does that tell you? They don't.
Everything.
Yeah, they are taught, not nutrition and health and about the immune system. They're taught to sell you those pills. Now, I'm not saying this for every doctor, and any doctors that are watching this, I'm not saying this to insult you, but my personal journey with doctor friends that I know, none of them could help me. It was this wonderful Australian lady who I worked with at a naturopath in Notting Hill. And that is where my journey to understanding the health and everything sort of spiritual and the health journey, all of that started around then. And I was like, oh my God, I had it so wrong up until now. Like my parents have had it so wrong. Yeah.
But, you know, I totally relate to all of that. And I was just laughing to myself because the teachers arrive when you're ready. And I remember I was about 18 stone, full of cortisol, employing 100 people, really stressful business. And I was a heart attack waiting to happen. And I ended up going on a fast for a week on a farm in Devon. And I didn't eat for a week. And it changed my life. It was a deeply, deeply spirit. I didn't expect it to be. I drove all the way to Devon from Manchester, and I stopped the car, and I nearly drove straight back. It was incredible. I was like, I don't want to be. What am I doing here? How am I not going to eat for a week? And then I learned loads about health. But they are connected. You know, if you're eating the lights, as I call it, you know, I'm looking at my garden, I'm looking at my 7-foot chard plant right now as I'm saying this. If you eat the lights, it changes you, and it's part of that process. And one other thing I wanted to mention is that there was a guy I had the privilege to meet a guy called Stephen, who was known as the Barefoot Doctor. Have you ever heard of him?
No.
He died this year, unfortunately, but he taught me something about intuition. And there's this muscle here, you know, this top muscle here. If you press in there and you press just behind the ear and you press here and you do it on both sides, it increases your intuition. And when he taught me this, I was like, what's he talking about? How does that increase your intuition?
Yeah.
And then I had this massive psychic experience like a week later that was just mind blowing. And I was like, oh my God. And you get all these. So what I think is fascinating about chats like this is that you get a little nugget like that. Yeah. You know, you go away, you do it, you have an experience, and then it kind of keeps you going down the path, and then the doors keep appearing, and then you choose whether you go through them or not. And what sounds like you've had the courage to go through those doors, and it does take courage. It takes huge courage what you've done, and I feel I've got to pat myself on the back as well. I feel like I've been courageous too, and it's not an easy journey.
No,
it's a lot easier to go back in the left brain. You know.
it's a lonely journey, but in a good way, because I find now I can only take so much of other people's energies, because there is this disparity between where people are at and where what I can sort of personally cope with, because I'm learning myself to ground every day and protect and conserve my energy. Because before, with the empathic nature that I have, I would be absorbing people's energies, and I didn't have an understanding about all this parasitic cords, and the aura is protecting your aura from all these negative entities that can latch onto you if you're of low vibration. So along the way, I learned watching YouTube videos and listening to sort of people talk, and having had the blessings, should I say, for some amazing healers and spiritual people that I've had the blessings to have these chats with, and for them to explain to me what goes on with stuff that you can't actually see. So it's this mysticism that I found very fascinating, and understanding that yes, this energy, when you feel drained around certain people, when you feel uplifted around certain people. So I started this journey of trying to manage myself around being okay and protected wherever I go. So, now when something happens, like these heart palpitations, I was like, oh, this feels great. What's this about?
Yeah.
So we're all finding our own way, Mark. And there is, like I said, everyone's doing it in their own time.
Well, and, like me, you're running a business in the 3D world at the same time as, going into this other space. I find that, I was having a call earlier with a friend, and she said, oh, you're in business mode. And I went, well, I just had a business call. It's like flicking a switch between one and the other. And having that protection is really, really important, I think, to discuss for anybody watching this, because we spoke the other day, and you'd just been pushed by somebody at the vets because you were too close to them, right?
Yeah.
And I got attacked in a shop the other week by a guy going, where's your mask? And I, speaking for myself, it was the one time that I just walked into the shop, not thought about it, was totally not thought about protecting myself, nothing. And I was taken by surprise. And then my adrenaline went through the roof, and it took me like 4 or 5 hours to come down from that experience. And, and you're in London, right? So I'm in west of Ireland, that, it's a lot more sparsely populated. You can't really avoid people, can you?
No, I mean, and thanks for reminding me about that experience, because it just is very telling where people are at mentally. Yeah, so this is where this stuff. Wish people would wake up. Wish people would wake up. But if we're having to deal with these petty, trivial things that happen at grassroots level, you get to a point where you're like, whoa! And I wasn't expecting that. As I said to you, I was just waiting on my little arrow.
Yeah.
And he didn't feel that it's because I didn't go the right way round in the queue. So I must have just walked past him. So he got a bit of a hump because I did that. Because I could see him making like these gestures, like, like, don't go that way. And I had my dog in my hand, so I was just a bit oblivious. I wasn't really paying attention. So I just went, stood on my little arrow. And then he just literally said, can you move further down? I said, no, I'm okay where I am. And he just pushed me. And this is an old man, right? And with his dog. And I was so shocked that I was like, tongue-tied. I'm like, what the hell happened there?
Yeah.
So it's very telling where people are. And I was so upset for a while afterwards. It just changed my vibrations. So this is where I went back and said, okay, Alpa, he's done that. That's his thing. You don't react, because I just went, what are you doing? How can you do that to a woman?
Yeah.
With a few profanities that I held, like, I can fight back. I'm a little thing, but I can fight back. And I was just like, that was not called for, and you shouldn't have done that. But afterwards, we have to pause. We have to pause and say, look, what is this all about? So we're just like this, and all our emotions are all over the place. And the other thing, Mark, is we're in a Mercury retrograde. Right?
I've noticed every time I try to turn something on, and I'm just giggling to myself because I know exactly what it is. So I just reboot and go away and then start again. I've got to bring something up, because my son just came in earlier, and he said, look, I've got to do my first public speaking thing at school. And I said, what's the subject? He said, mental health. And I was like, why are you picking mental health? And he said, and I've mentioned this, I think, on the channel before, but, you know, a 15-year-old girl committed suicide at his school last week. A friend of mine, 25-year-old boy I know about near here, hung himself in the kitchen. His friends said they're dropping like flies. I think it's really important to, you know, because there are actual people are actually dying. You know, this situation is awful for a lot of people. I mean, how do you have you come across that kind of thing happening there?
Those palpitations are happening right now.
Yeah,
and it's not because I've heard this negative news, because they happen sporadically. So I think, you know, like, download that. Yes, I'm glad you brought that up, not in any sinister way, but this is what we've been saying for a while, that, you know, this second wave is really going to be about the deaths and the suicides, and people need connection, and there is so much confusion, fear mongering going on, even though no matter how best of, like, you and myself try and pump people up and say, look, just, you know, be positive, if they're still latching onto the news, and if the majority of the people are all like, oh my god, this is happening and this is a virus, and imagine the psychological imprint that's having to young people. You know, you can't connection is so important for their involvement and their development. And yes, I've heard of one person, and that actually really, I don't want to use the word crush me, but it did. And it's just like hearing this now, it crushes me inside, because I'm thinking it from an angry place. It's like, and propelling me even more to speak about this, you know, that this is wrong. Put all our differences aside, everyone, but let's focus on the mental health of our youth, of our children. And stories like this, just, we're so evolved in a society in so many things, technology, everything, but we're not evolving here.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we're not teaching our children, and I'm not parents, and I'm not giving my 2 pence worth or anything like that, but we need to be teaching our children to be strong and to be, you know, robust, and all of this stuff. We're not paying attention to what they're watching, you know, on their iPads and on their computers all the time, you know, just leaving them to themselves. Like, I'm not saying all parents are doing that, but why has this happened?
Well, there's been a big abrogation of responsibility that's come from the system that they've tried to create. So the separation of people is a big part of the control system, and just handing over. You know, look at the way the genius of the lockdown, really, here at least, was everybody gets paid, right? So you're not going to stand up and argue against the government if the government's putting £300 a week into your bank account, you know. And the very first interview I did with Charlie Ward, I used this term. I was like, because people are suckling on the nipple of the state, and this comes down to sovereignty. This comes down to individual sovereignty, not national sovereignty, which is about what you're saying. It's about personal responsibility, and everybody's on a different part of the process, I suppose. And one thing that's popping into my head while I'm talking about this is this, going back to the 144 that you said at the beginning, because I was talking to JCK about this the other day, and she said that the elders of the original people in Australia are talking about the 144,000, and she says it's clusters of 144,000 people in each country that are required to hold the light to get us through this next stage of evolution, if you want to call it that. Yeah. And does that resonate with you? My
eyes just flicking now as that's just happened. Look, it's happened with 2 things. So I'm trying to decipher myself as to look when I get these downloads, and I've navigated myself in this journey through synchronicity. So numerology, the numbers were bombarding me. So for sure, I definitely have heard that. So there's variables online when you go in inquire. I was curious as like, what do these numbers mean? Because it's not just like on the time I'll see it as 144. That happens all the time, but it will be like something happened yesterday. It will be like 22 likes, 144 views, and 777 shares. Those are powerful numbers, and that happened, and I just screenshot them every time now. Or when I get a receipt, it would be like 1111. So my understanding is that 144,000 light workers, or people that are ascending onto the planet to help humanity evolve. I didn't necessarily know that they were in the clusters within each country. So that's a good, that's a good nugget of information, because I thought, if there's only 144,000 in the world, we've got a long way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, this is too much responsibility for me. It's like, if I
Well, you're not alone. You're not alone.
Yeah. As in, like, for the 144,000 people, like, no pressure. But okay, okay, we said within each country, I can cope with that.
Yeah.
But we have a sense of responsibility. We've decided to go down this path, and make this bed, we've got to lie in it, and yeah, I had no idea where this was going to go. I mean, I haven't, you've done your channel at the moment with work and everything that I'm doing. I found it difficult just to do the research, because I want to make sure I keep up to date with what's going on. And I know that while we don't want to keep concerning ourselves politically with what Trump's doing, it's important though.
Oh, and it's, you can't not be interested in it, because it's just extraordinary. I just want to mention this one thing. I was watching Donald Trump do a speech last week, I think it was, and I don't know how it was done, but he ended the live stream on Facebook at precisely 17 minutes and 17 seconds. And you start seeing, Steve, this isn't nonsense. So I was blogging about synchronicity and numbers 5-6 years ago, but I didn't really understand what it was then, I must admit. And I ended up doing things like going on ayahuasca retreats and stuff like that to try and find more answers. And this year it's all just becoming kind of apparent, isn't it? And it's kind of like, it's falling into place. And it also feels very familiar.
Yeah.
I have this feeling of real familiarity with the whole thing. And talking of ayahuasca, there's a song in ayahuasca circles that is sung called I'm Coming Home.
Yeah.
Pachamama, I'm coming home.
Yeah.
And when
yeah, I'm feeling that one. I'm feeling that one. I got you on that one.
That's a big one. And I'm running everything that I do. As if I'd watched you say that maybe 5 years ago, I'd have gone, she's, what is happening to me?
I love it now when people say that she's just crazy, because my level of cray, I'm 50 shades of cray. There's there's so much excitement within. You when you understand the good, bad, the ugly within yourself, and you're evolving every single day. Yeah,
it's amazing, isn't it?
Every single day, and you get it right. I'm an inquisitive person. I'm a dreamer, and I love the the esoteric world and all these synchronicities. It just fascinates me.
Same here.
Put in these microscopic units within our families, within our networks, within the infrastructure, that people that we are around. So I followed academia, hated it, right? I wanted to go into more creative stuff. I wanted to actually be an actress, a theatre actress. Well, luckily I didn't really go that route.
Well, I used to run a theatre company. We have a few. I'm just going to tell you this, actually. The nicest thing the nicest review I've ever had for anything I've ever done, I got yesterday, which was about one of my poems, and it was written by a woman called Angela, who's a wonderful woman, who was Harold Pinter's PA for 30 years, and she said, "Pinter is proud of you." Oh. And I nearly cried when I read. I feel like crying now. It's just amazing, and just amazing things like this are happening. And one of the reasons why sometimes I go, what are you doing? What on earth possesses you to go and record a poem and put it on the internet, Mark?
Oh, I love it.
And my kids were like this at the beginning, and in a way, I'm doing it to show them that even a 51-year-old fart like me can go and be creative.
51, I thought you did look a day older than 20.
Au contraire, Blackadder. And it's important for us to, I think, you shine like a light. I've watched lots of videos of you, and what you're saying, you probably don't realize it is courageous in and of itself, because it's just those little moments that make somebody else watching this that go, it's okay. That's the feedback I keep getting. It's like, thank you. I feel okay now. And I'm like, well, what did I do? I didn't think I did anything. I was just talking about emotions. I was talking about,
It's validation, right? And ultimately, when you've gone on in your life without any kind of validation while you're growing in your infancy, that's sort of your psychological most important times when you're developing, and validation has happened for whatever reasons, whether it's at school, right? Like, so the situation with your son, daydreaming, there will be something like a nugget within him. It's like, oh no, I'm not good enough. It's down to the parents then to kind of lift that up and make sure that it's ingrained, that he doesn't grow insecurities from that. See, when I was growing up, and the teacher was in a very competitive school, and I wasn't really bad, but I wasn't the brightest. I wasn't an A grade student, and I hung around with all A grade students. And the teacher to sort of say something to me like, you shouldn't be sitting at this desk with them because you're not clever enough.
But even the word, Alpa, that you just used, proves the programming. You said I wasn't the brightest. You probably were the brightest.
According to the system.
Yeah, I know. But even the word. System, yeah. Because the brightest implies the one who's most in the left brain and does all the homework.
Yeah. That exactly, and well spotted. You see, it's so even if we are guilty of it ourselves, we're unhooking ourselves from the paradigms of the cabal, the deep state conditioning. Yeah. So we are unhooking ourselves all the time, every day, because it's so easy for us to go into that because that's all we've had. So we've kind of jumped into this other like kingdom of knowledge, and a new light has shone upon us, and we still can go flit in and out from it. So well spotted.
Well, it's have you ever seen have you heard of Plato's allegory of the cave?
No.
Anybody watching this should go to YouTube and type in Plato's allegory of the cave and look for the animation. There's a little animation, a really amazing animation, and it's basically the story of some guys that are in a prison inside a cave, and they're chained up all their lives, and all they can see is the shadows on the wall, which is the shadows of the guards walking in front of the fire. That's all they've ever known. One of them escapes, gets outside, sees the sky, sees the birds and the bees and the flowers, and he's just gobsmacked. And the first thing he does is he runs back in to tell his mates and to try and escape from the prison so they can come outside. Guess what they do? They kill him. Which is actually, I think Bill Hicks or George Carlin did a gag along those lines. What do we, I think it was Bill Hicks, he said, what do we do with those people? We kill them, JFK, Diana, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, anybody that stands up shining a light and saying, actually, you don't need to do that because we could do this. Yeah. Gone. And did you ever find did anybody ever say to you at any point in your journey that, oh my God, you're so brave. Aren't you afraid? Aren't you afraid? I got that loads.
Yeah, actually, some really good friends that are well-meaning, and they don't necessarily understand what it is that I'm posting. And the reason they don't understand is because they don't actually take the time to read it or watch it. That's why they don't understand. And that's what I realized. But they said, look, you're talking about this stuff that's been going on for ages with, and I'll speak about that in a second, with children, and you've got to be careful. There's a lot of sick people out there. Granted, yes, I get that. And we do have to be careful, but of what really, like, now for me, the quest is just, we've got 2 more months, I'd say, 2 more weeks at the moment. We'll see what happens.
Do you have a sense that the clock is ticking? Do you have, because I have that, like,
at the moment, like, I'm feeling
this is now.
Yeah. So now, like, I'm thinking, okay, like this, I just have to carry on. But sorry, I just lost my train of thought. This is what happens. Where were we?
I don't know. I've lost mine too.
Aren't we? 2 peas in the butt.
I was daydreaming. Sorry.
I know. Well, yeah. This is the thing. Focus and paying attention and all of that. This is so overwhelming with the information that we that's being bombarded with. And then suddenly, oh yeah, that's right. What did people think I was going to, like, basically get shot? Well, you heard what happened to Charlie Freak, right?
Oh, I got the message the other day that there was gunshots outside the house again, and they've had the helicopters and all this crazy stuff.
So these things, and then Charlie Ward had some threats and stuff back then. I don't know about now, but everyone who is trying to expose the truth to the best of their ability are getting attacked in some form. So
we saw all the YouTube channels that went down yesterday. All my favorite channels just disappeared overnight.
Did they? All YouTube or Twitter?
YouTube.
I thought it was
lots of channels like Edge of Wonder, Destroying the Illusion, you know, good guys.
The Santa Surfing guy.
I don't know about that one because I don't really watch.
No, because I saw something. Because Charlie set up a new channel.
It was a big wipeout.
I haven't yet. So, but they're really attacking. So everyone's getting attacked in some shape or form. My Instagram got whacked, and my Instagram had nothing to do. Like on my Facebook, I put everything because you can share articles and it's a bit easier to share information. And Instagram had just all my pictures from the last sort of 6-7 years. So I just kept it a bit separate. But in the stories, I was sharing some stuff, but it wasn't even that bad. It was mainly about all the spiritual stuff that I love talking about and these quotes. And, you know, I love a quote. And next thing you know, my Instagram's gone down after I did the Hunt for Red October show with Charlie Freak. That did really, really well. Like,
great. It was fantastic.
That's on like 105,000 views. And I'm like, wow, that was brilliant. We were really in the flow of so many things. And I love that, you know, we, like ourselves, we're just, you know, flowing in such lovely synchronicity. And I think people are gravitating to stuff like this now. Some will absolutely hate it. And they're going to be the haters that criticize. And, you know, I get criticized for interrupting too much. And she talks too much. All right. I do. I put my hand up, you know. But there's a real appreciation from people as well. And in as much as I was appreciative of like the Charlie Woods and all the other spiritual channels that I've been watching over the last few years, I wasn't watching the news. And there's going to be an appreciation for that authenticity and that rawness. And, you know, we are just a bunch of people that are coming together and giving you a chance to think in another way, to explore and find your own way, you know the truth, be the light, find your own way.
Well, you know, lockdown, although I knew this virus or something like this was coming, I was blissfully unaware of it because I was having such a good year. You know, the start of this year was just lovely. I was in Mauritius, I was doing talks, it was beautiful. And then this virus came and I was like, oh God. But I've been waiting for something because I've known about the New World Order for 21 years. And I knew that this was something was going to happen around now. And everybody was predicting it. All the ancient prophecies from the indigenous people, all the writers like David Icke, etc., all talking about this time. So this was coming. But I did get, you know, the first few weeks of it, it was really powerfully turned on, you know, and I was in a state of shock. And even though I knew it was coming, and then I found Charlie Ward, and then I found Charlie Freak, and I remember the day that I found Charlie Ward, and I was just like, oh my God, this is lovely. Somebody's actually saying something really positive in the middle of all this crap, and then life got better basically. And like I said, the teachers appear when you're ready for them, and
100%.
And it is quite. What's the word? It's beautiful, but it's humbling. But it's amazing to be able to share conversations like this with people, because if enough of us do it, the activation that happens inside people, and these changes are profound, bit frightening, beautiful, but also we really are going into an incredible future. And because I've got 5 kids, I'm saying to them every day. Unfortunately, they've chosen to go to school, and my girls especially have to wear masks, right? So if they get in the car, I'm like, take the mask off. And I say to them, look, as they get out of the car, I'd say, be rebellious, question everything, including this. And they are listening to that, which is lovely. And I, as you said earlier about the children, it's really tough when you're seeing them go through this, and you know that lots of them are getting depressed on the quiet and stuff like that, but it is their journey as well. And what I'm looking at my kids, I said to my son, you have no idea what's coming, how wonderful your future is going to be. You just got to hold on in the meantime while you're here.
That's amazing.
And it's
Mark. It's amazing advice, and I think that spirit and that inner tenacity that you have, and yeah, you have the good days, the bad days, and I think your journey about what you mentioned, that at the beginning of March you knew about this new world order for quite some time. Someone like me who didn't follow any kind of conspiracy theories or anything, I was actually I was ignorant to all of this, because I had zero interest in politics. And everyone was asking what was going on in the UK. I was just in a cocoon for a very long time, very sheltered in a cocoon in my own inner journey. So you're right, something happened. There was a huge energy in March. It was almost like, well, she's going to be a bit of a hard case because she knows nothing. Yeah, right. So it's like this energy sort of was, it was almost like it infiltrated my whole psyche, and it was like, oh my God, I get it, like these visions, and I started seeing things, and I connected the dots very quickly. Like I was even in a shock, right? I wasn't in a shock about the children, a real shock, which had me bedbound for 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, it's unbelievable, yeah.
Someone who had very little understanding of names and people and what their positions were politically, everything made sense. And then my intuitive guidance said, right, follow what's going on in America. You need to follow what's going on with America, Donald Trump, and then you go down the rabbit hole. But it's so important that, wherever we are constantly like replenishing ourselves, because it's not the easiest journey. It isn't easy. And like you said earlier on, we're flitting from work to this. Charlie Ward said to me, sometimes he'll just, because I go into business mode when I'm speaking to like clients, and it's very good, and I get very serious. And I'm like talking about all sorts to do with business and commercial and properties, whatever. And sometimes I forget that, to migrate back to this, I'm still speaking in that, from that hat on. So, in the beginning, this was all new to me. I had YouTube and social media, and I found it a bit overwhelming, and I still do sometimes, but we're in this together. And I think, did you watch Trump's interview with that journalist on NBC or CNBC?
I don't think, which one?
Yesterday. It was yesterday.
No, I didn't know. Yesterday, I didn't have a minute yesterday.
Yeah, it was a powerful one, and she's like saying, "What do you make of this this Q movement?" And like, what is your take on you? She's always talking about this white supremacist, and and he's saying, "You're always going and attacking me about that." So it seemed quite, I won't say staged, but the interview was directed for him to be questioned about Q, and he said, "I don't know anything about them." She's like, "Oh, they're a bunch of people that are claiming there's a lot of satanic pedophiles, and everyone's involved in all these satanic practices, etc. And what do you think about that?" And he goes, "Well, there's nothing wrong with what they're fighting about, right?" But he goes, "Well, I don't know about Q. I mean, if they're talking about that, well, they're not wrong." So it confused me a little bit when he said, "I don't know who they are."
Well, he said that before when he got asked about Q about a month ago, didn't he?
Yeah, and he said that.
And then he said, "Is that a bad thing?"
I realized, okay, I see what you're doing here. Yeah. So, they're talking about it in the mainstream now, so that's a start.
Well, yeah, it is. Do you not feel annoyed that he's not saying, "Yeah, I know"?
Yeah. Yes, I did think that a little bit yesterday.
Yeah. So listen, I've got a question. Right, my kids, my daughter especially, will get in the car and she'll say, "Trump's a paedophile. Trump's a racist," right? So I want you to do an answer to her question so that I can fast forward to this bit and say, just watch Alpa, what she says.
Sorry, I did put you there. What you want?
So I want to be able, when next time my daughter comes in and says, "Trump's a paedophile, Trump's a racist, Dad," I want to be able to say, "Well, listen to what Alpa says, and I'm going to fast forward to your answer," because she won't listen to me, so she might listen to you.
She might listen to me. Oh gosh, no pressure. I mean, how old is your daughter?
She's 14.
14. See, I had a situation with my 6-year-old cousin sister. She's 6 years old, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so glad that Trump has got coronavirus because he's a mean man, and I hope he dies." So I said to her, I said, "Sweetheart," I don't want to say her name, but do you realize what you're saying there? That's not very nice. And who's telling you this? And she said the teachers are, and it's in the news, and everybody says he's bad. Yeah. So we're up against the everybody's. Yeah. But I would say to your daughter, okay, don't listen to dad. Yeah. Because he might be a bit too woohoo for you, but follow what he's doing, or watch the people that he's talking to. Right. And she's 14. She's obviously more developed than a 6-year-old, but teach her how to do her own research. I mean,
well, this is happening. My other daughter is now sending me things on WhatsApp, which is like the graph going. She's sending me stuff that's like she's doing her own research, which is brilliant. But the peer pressure.
That's the way, right?
I know, but the peer pressure is huge. I mean, she got in the car the other day and said, "Oh, my friend, she really likes you, but she doesn't want to come in the car because you might talk about Trump." Because I'm like,
it's like
it is. It's easy. I've never seen anything like it.
That's what they're doing to us, though, really, aren't they? Like, oh, there they go, Alpa, there she goes. She's dropping bombs on her Facebook. Let's just unfriend her. I was looking for someone that I wanted to get in touch with, and I went, oh, they've unfriended me. Okay, that's fine.
I've not even looked.
No, I was looking for someone that I wanted to get contact with, and I went, oh, okay.
That's the point. There's quite a few people I've not even thought about for months that I should go and have a look and see.
Yeah, that was just somebody that actually had nothing to do with any of this stuff. It just for whatever reason, and I realized, I thought, and you know what, the stuff that we're posting is just not something that they are able to open their minds to.
No.
And what we now need, though, Mark, is that we need the exposure. Of course, when Trump asked for the redaction and the declassification of the emails, that was a start. But I know it's all something that's going to happen every single day. But we do need concrete, like, proof of some of the big stuff. So hopefully that will start with Hillary Clinton very soon, and then it will move on to Obama. And no matter how much is going on social media, this is what's being hooked within their mindsets, that the media will tell you the truth, because they're also being taught to listen to the BBC and Sky News, not social media. One of my friends was telling me her niece and nephew were going through this, wearing masks and not listening to anything that their friends are telling them about all these conspiracy theories. So it's we're in a big war here, a psychological war.
100%. So, sorry.
No, and I'm just saying, so how do your daughter's like being hit everywhere, and then there's that peer pressure. So even if she maybe like, dad's talking about this and I believe him, she doesn't want to be. It's like that inclusion, as it is, they're all separated in this
absolutely, it's really really important to them. I mean, my kids grew up understanding about food. I catch them drinking aspartame drinks outside the shop, and they hide it, and I'm like, come on, what are you doing? And it's just because they want to be part of the group, and that's
has got a big role.
I feel like they belong to some social group and stuff, and that's a really it is I think this is why, going back to that thing about people saying to me, aren't you scared of being killed? This was 4 or 5 years ago, because of what I was putting on Facebook then. I was putting up stuff about satanic paedophiles 5 or 6 years ago before. I mean, it's amazing to me to see it being discussed so openly now.
I just can't. I don't think I would have, with me in the way that I am. I think God's timed everything. Everything's in divine timing for me.
Yeah.
And it's like, you wouldn't have been able to handle that like 5, 6 years ago.
Well, exactly. Because I'd ask myself, why am I the one that's knowing about this stuff now?
Yeah. So
now I understand why.
Hats off to you there, because I always feel people who have been awake for years, and someone wrote into me the other day saying, Alba, I've been on this journey for like 20 odd years. I'm like, well, heart went out to him. It's like, how in the heavens have you coped? This is 6 months for us. Yeah, well, within this, how everything's being exposed and this explosion on social media. But people who didn't have social media and have had to, like the Bob Marley's, Dr. Sebbies of the world, that had to live in their truth and continue fighting for that truth. They're warriors, right? And
Oh
to
yeah.
go through that. Here's me on the battlefield since March. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm trying to fight and I'm helping. But you guys, even yourself, known for 5 years, I don't think I could have coped.
Well, I think you said it's all divine timing, and you know, God's putting the pieces on the field at the time that they're required. You know, so we stand on the shoulders of giants. You know, Bob Marley and stuff like that. You know what he did. The energy frequency ripples through time, even though time doesn't exist. But and then you know, we were all activated at the right time to do the thing. I mean, I spent 20 years in more than 20 years in marketing, wrote a book on it, made courses, made a living off it, and often would question, you know, what am I doing this for? Because I don't know if you've ever seen Bill Hicks, but I've mentioned him already once today, but he does this great line. He just stands there and goes, anybody here work in marketing? Kill yourself. You know, it just does this whole thing about people in marketing being the scum of the earth. And I was in marketing and I was like, I agree with Bill Hicks. Yeah, I'm in marketing. And I kind of convinced myself that, well, I like helping the little guy against corporations, which is what the internet allowed me to do. So I found a way of living with that. But now I'm finding myself helping people within this community, right? And really getting them to a position where they don't have to worry about money. They can just get on with their job because they've got a job to do. And it all kind of makes sense, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything kind of makes sense if you just keep following that intuition and that feeling. And you know,
I have a question for you too. So speaking about like what you're doing with courses and within marketing, and let's just say in the yesteryears of all these motivational speakers that come out, such as Andy Harrington, Tony Robbins. You've got this stuff about NLP, Richard Bandler, and learning the landmark, or in the 80s, the landmark course was really, really popular.
Yeah.
These courses that were designed, motivational courses designed to help you in your career in sales. How do you view the structure of those type of courses now?
Well,
it's
interesting you say that, because I started teaching internet marketing, I think it was in 2008. And back then, hardly anybody knew anything. I mean, I was a pioneer in SEO, pay-per-click, YouTube, Facebook. I was using all these things when they were brand new. And I'd spent a lot of money going to events in America and all around the world. And I started talking about it, but I was just talking from my experience. And I was like a kid in the sweet shop who just wanted to share. Look, this is amazing. If you do this, this, and this, you can do this, this, and this. And I remember going to one in London. What was his name? I think Andy Harrington was on that day, actually. But there was Brendan. I can't remember his name. It's an American guy.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, he did a 4-day event, and I was a guest. I was invited, right? And after the first day, I was like, I can't do this anymore. You know, this guy was cramming half an hour's worth of material into 4 days. And the people went running to the back to sign for the $1,000, $10,000 course. And it never sat well with me. And I never did that. You know, I did make courses, but they were my courses. You can go and watch them. They're proper teaching. Like, there's more in 1 hour of my course than you'll get in a 20-hour course from these guys that were making millions off it.
Yeah.
You know, but I never sat well with it, and I never pursued it. I understand all the techniques. I mean, for example, I deliberately never went on an NLP course because I just don't like the idea, because it's manipulation.
I studied NLP, so it was in 2006. It was Andy Harrington's course that I went on to, and I was just, you know, really doing quite well in my career at that time, and I just wanted to enhance my sales skills, because I was a part of a new startup where there was only 5 of us, and then you know, we grew to having like 500-600 people in the company. It was such real growth, and in terms, it was like finding my own way, teaching myself. So I didn't go through endless training courses or sales techniques, etc. I had a choice of working for like some of the big banks after graduating from uni, which now I know why my energy was rejecting it. So Morgan Stanley and HSBC I was going to work for as my first graduate job. But then I was like, no, I had this opportunity to work for a new startup, no pay or nothing. It was just a self-employed position. And I took that. So in that, it was a new company that was developing. So I went for these courses back then, and just to enhance my interpersonal skills, communication skills. You know, I was a business development manager, so I did a lot of one-to-one B2B, and you know, I took nuggets of information from it. However, I remember specifically I've done two, so one with this guy. I'm not going to mention the other person, and they're great. They're doing something good. They're going out there, speaking to people, trying to get people to feel motivated. But there was something energetically that didn't sit right with me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I found it fascinating, you know, how you could like read people's body language. And I never knew about this because I know NLP now is of this cabal construct paradigm.
Well, it doesn't surprise me to hear that. I repelled against it all the way through. I had no.
Inside, I was written. It's interesting we're talking about this because inside I was. This doesn't feel right. And when you're going through your own sort of like trials and tribulations in life, you think, right, well, where am I going wrong? Let me try and improve myself. So I want to take responsibility, and I want to develop, and I want to get better in my skill sets because I'm working for myself, you know, and I want to constantly improve. And you're investing in yourself, right? You're continuously developing. But energetically, NLP never sat well with me. And then this whole like, let's swing off a tree and walk on fire and all of that kind of stuff. It's great. I just felt, and I never said anything when it was just a thought that I had in my head that it kind of set most people up for a fall. Yeah. When they walked away, because you're not gonna, I know it's psychologically doing something where you kind of like are pushing past fear and certain boundaries. I get some of that. So, you know, I'm not knocking any of these ones, but I don't know how many people of these courses where you go, where it's an arena full with so many people, how many people come out as the next success story?
Very rare.
And as we know, now that we were led to believe, like the Mark Zuckerbergs, the George Bezos, and all these people that have made these big, you know, this big impact in the technocratic world.
It's all fake.
They're planted, right? Yeah. And even Richard Branson, and all these stories were designed to suit a narrative that keeps
create this fantasy
inspiring.
It's exactly the same as the lottery. It's just a fantasy, you know. You've just reminded me that I did go to one in London once. I'm not going to say who it was, but I couldn't believe how many people were in this room and how they were screaming, you know, and the guy wasn't saying anything. They were doing all that stuff. And I was like, what the
hell yeah.
What's going on
here? Get a hell yeah.
Yeah, all that stuff. I did it, you know, let's do that. Look this way, now look that way. Now do it with your eyes shut. You've gone for
and then go hug the person next to you.
All that hugging stuff and I'm like, what's going on? So he got on stage and he said, I guarantee if you sign up for this program, you will make £1 million more money next year. So I thought, right, I'm going to do this. So I went and signed. I think it was like 10 grand, right? So I signed up for it. I was the first one there. And I went to this event in another country where there were 17 other people in the room from other businesses. And this guy had got them all to fly to this country and spent the whole weekend letting everybody tell everybody else what the problems were in their business. And he just sat there and listened. And I was like, something wrong here. This is something wrong. So I started, when it came to me, I started picking apart their websites and all of this. And I was going to do it. Literally that night, all of them were coming up to me saying, when we get back to England, can we come and see you? And I was like, sure. So I charged them to come to a seminar, and I spent 2 days teaching them everything they needed to know to sort the business out. And I learned so much by doing that it's a bit like employing people. People only do the things that they want to do.
Yeah.
So you can go, or that they like doing, right? So you can, and this is something to understand about management, relationships, everything. You know, you've got to find out, who is that person really? What are they about? What do they love doing? And then put them in that position, and don't expect them. You know, and this is back to the kids and everything else. And one thing I was going to mention earlier is Do Schools Kill Creativity by Ken Robinson. Everybody should watch that. And by the way, you don't have to be a parent to be qualified to say the things that you've said. You know, we need leaders like you, right? Because it's got to be heart-centered, heart-based, inward. And that's the future that I can't wait for. You know, this sausage factory mentality is done. It's just, everybody knows it's done, don't they?
Yeah,
In their hearts.
they do and they don't. You see, you know, I still sit.
Well, Stockholm syndrome. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, I sit there and I try not to let it get to me. But we said earlier on, you know, we just have to understand where everyone is in this journey. But there comes a point now where, you know, so much is being shared online as well, and these protests that are happening in London and all around the world. Surely people who may have not believed what was going on and thought, oh, these are all conspiracy theories, and now so many people are waking up. I just wonder what the people that are still choosing to remain silent, or the guy that pushed me, or those sort of mindsets, what they actually think is going on. What do they think is going to happen? Because when I still hear, oh, I can't wait till everything goes back to normal, mate, that's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. It's not happening.
To new shores, right? We have to understand that. And for me, especially how I've evolved, like I found social media really overwhelming before, but never have I gone and spoken up as I have now. Why? Because this is the time. Am I going to be doing it for the rest of my life? No. I'm already thinking about things now. I'm seeing things in the future to help the evolvement of humanity. Yeah, because we're not going to be sitting doing these like podcasts for the rest of our lives, right? It's going to develop into something else, and we want to help the consciousness of humanity to evolve. We are semi-conscious people. I'm not someone that knows everything about spirituality. I get tongue-tied. You know, this whole YouTube thing was a complete new experience for me. But I'm sort of thinking in the future. But right now, though, we're in the here and now. We have to be present in what's going on. So it's a question of balance. Yeah, we have that balance. Okay, well, we know that, you know, this Trump situation's happening, and the grunts that everybody has with that, then with the masks, then with the virus itself, and then with where everyone's fighting with everyone, with you're awake, you're not, you're this, you're that, blah, 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 blah. Right? We balance it. We balance it from a place of, for me, it's like take a back seat, pause, take a back seat, pause, take a back seat, pause. But don't stop what you're doing, because this is the battlefild that we're on. That's
what I did a couple of weeks ago. I had to stop.
Yeah, I know.
It was so strong. I was like, I don't even know my name. So I just stayed off Facebook, went to sleep when I needed to. Yeah. But in my head, I was like, it was like being taken off the football field as a kid. It was like horrible, you know. I want to go back on, you know. You know, when you've broken your ankle, you just need to get it fixed, and then you go back on the field. And it was like really frustrating, but I just had to get that balance, because it was like I was flying so fast that I couldn't. Suddenly message. I was like, I can't do this. I need a break.
Yeah, I saw that on your Facebook, and it was the same time. I had it exactly the same time. For me, there was just an interjection of some. And I think JCK spoke about it in one of your shows, the entities one. I feel that I was, you know, potentially sort of attacked, where, and a lot of the truthers who have been like, you know, their shows were going down, Charlie's show went down, I just ended up, and then I saw yours. So these were confirmations that actually we are working with the, you know, this the light and the dark, right? So it is a war. This really is a war, and we're on the battlefield. So we've just taken a bit of an injury, and, you know, we have, you know, it depends what level of the war you're at as well, you know, what you're choosing to do. So I think it's, you know, this is just beautiful to hear things like this. Not that you got whacked or anything, but with the synchronicity, I'm not that crazy, the synchronicities of our times, because you came out, you were speaking about stuff. I was like talking to a few people, then just off my Facebook was just dropping bombs all the time. But I hope that everyone watching this, you know, watching me for me, watching you for you, will take away that, like, the essence of what and why we're doing this. You know, it's for the greater good of humanity. We don't claim to know everything. I think we're just a group of people that have woken up to a narrative that hasn't set right with us. You for a lot longer than myself, you know. I'm just since March, I'm a newbie, and, you know, we're evolving in this journey all together. And it's the unity consciousness that I always try and promote, and going inside all the time. I always say this: go inside, And I think, you know, we always get nuggets from listening to these podcasts, and let's just hold hands and try and elevate each other.
Well, I think that's the perfect place to stop. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's been a real pleasure speaking to you. It's amazing how many friends that we're making that we've not met yet. I was talking this morning on the phone. So, well, we're going to have a party. I got invited to some place in Spain. We're going to have a big party here. We're going to do that. And I was like, so funny. All my best friends now, I've never actually met.
Well, I'm coming to that party. I haven't been to.
Oh,
one.
I know, with bells on.
I'm there. My name's
I
on the
can't
list.
wait.
Yeah, no, Mark, has been really, really, really nice speaking to you, and lots of thought-provoking conversations, and it's just aligned nicely and flowed in beautiful synchronicity. So I'm honored. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Alpa.